In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a pouch like this, and like this, and like this, and also like this. Hello sewing people of the internet. In this video I'm going to show you how to make this simple zipper pouch. This is a really versatile pouch that you can add a lot of features to if you want to, but it's very simple, just made out of one piece of fabric. If you want to just skip to how to make it, I'll put a time code in the description so you can get to that, but I'm going to talk a little bit first. So you might be wondering why you might want to learn how to make this pouch. If you're already an experienced seamster and you've already made backpacks and duffel bags and that kind of thing, then you probably already have the skills necessary to make something like this without me telling you how to do it. I would encourage you to try it though, because if you want to experiment with different materials or a different method for finishing a zipper, for example, then this is a great way to practice while actually making something useful and not just wasting material. I have a bunch of these pouches. I keep them in my backpacks and keep smaller items in them, and that way when I need chapstick I can just reach in and grab a pouch out and hunt in that rather than having to dig through a bunch of loose items in my pack. These are also a great way to use up small pieces of scrap. For example, this pouch is made of a whole bunch of pieces of scrap material I had left over. This is waxed canvas I had left over from a backpack. So it's a good way to use up scrap material too. If you're new to sewing and your goal is to make more complicated items like backpacks and duffel bags and that kind of thing, then this is a great place to start. You actually get a lot of technique practice, a lot of opportunities to learn new skills from such a simple pouch. This involves installing a zipper and finishing those seams and also finishing the side seams, and there's a number of ways you can finish the seams. This is a quick project to maybe make 3 or 4 of them and use different techniques to see which one you like. And again, when you're done, you still have this finished project that you can give to someone or make use of yourself. Speaking of making gifts of them, I frequently, when someone does me a favor or something, or if I want to give someone something, I make a pouch like this. It's pretty quick and easy for me to do, but it's a heartfelt gift that I made and not a $10 gift card to, you know, a grocery store or whatever. So if you like to do that kind of thing, this is a nice thing to have in your arsenal. This is also a good project to try if you're experimenting with a new material that you haven't used before. For example, this is a roadwork sign that I found discarded on the side of the road, and incorporating it into some future projects, and this is a good way for me to test it by making this little pouch. I've also made a pouch out of billboard and bicycle inner tubes. And by the way, if you're interested, this pouch is what you get out of one inner tube. This is one mountain bike inner tube. It's 26 by 2.125 or something like that. So there you go. This is also an easy project to make a different size. So you can make it any size you want to accommodate whatever you want to carry in it. Alright, so that's why I think you should make this pouch. Now let's talk about how. So this is the pouch that we're going to make for the video. This is just some ripstop nylon that I got from the regular fabric store. You can literally use any fabric that you want to. You could make a bag out of mesh. You can use Tyvek. By the way, this says, is this permanent? Because I was trying to see if permanent marker is permanent on Tyvek. And so far, yes it is. So if you want to do some Sharpie art or something on Tyvek, that works pretty well. So you can just pick any fabric that you want to make this from. For this pouch, I'm starting with a piece of fabric that is 8 inches wide and 15.5 inches long. And when we're finished, it'll be this approximate size. There's probably an easy formula to figure out the exact size rectangle that you need to cut to get the exact size pouch that you want. I have no idea. If you need your pouch to come out a specific size, one way that you can determine that is by using paper, folding the paper to the right size first, and then figure it out from there before you cut your fabric. Before I forget, one of the many variations you can do on a pouch like this is to add a liner. I'm not doing that in this case, but basically you could just take 2 pieces of fabric, lay them on top of each other, and treat them as one piece, and that would basically give you this effect. But in this circumstance, we're just going to be using one single layer of fabric. The machine I'm going to use today is one of my Singer 201s. because I have them. You may not have a Singer 201, but your lowly machine will work also. I'm frequently asked when I do project videos about the size thread and needle that I'm using. I usually don't even know the needle size, but I happen to know today because I broke the needle yesterday and put a new one in. So I have a size 90 needle in right now, and I'm using, as I almost always do, size V69 thread. Now, for this thin ripstop fabric, that's probably too thick of a thread and too big of a needle, frankly. In general, the way it works is you select the thread for the fabric that you're using, and then you select the needle that best fits the thread. One of the reasons I like to use V69 is it's very versatile and can go from sewing thin stuff like this to sewing inner tubes. So that's usually what I use, but just whatever fabric you're using for your project, select a thread that's right for that fabric and select the needle that's appropriate for that thread. So basically all you have to do is sew one side of a zipper to one end of this rectangle and the other side of the zipper to the other side, and then join the zipper together. And that way we're just going to work with one piece of fabric. If you worked with a zipper that was closed on both sides and couldn't be separated, then you'd have to cut this in two, sew the zipper in, and then sew that bottom seam together. If you are working with continuous coil zipper, which is what I'm going to be working with, this is just a salvaged piece from I don't even know what anymore. You can just separate the zipper, use them as two separate pieces, and then put the zipper slider on to join them again when we're done. If you're working with a pre-made zipper that has a stop on one end, then you can either do what I usually do and cut off that stop, provided that the zipper is long enough for your project. So in this case, there's plenty of extra length. I could just cut it off. But if you don't want to do that, my wife taught me in our second sewing machine swap video, and if you haven't seen that, I'll put a card or a link or something, that you can sew on one side and then sew the other side on without taking this all the way apart. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I prefer to just take them apart. So with our separated zipper, I just need to sew one side to one end of this rectangle. I've mentioned before that ripstop nylon frays very badly, so I definitely want to protect the raw edge of this. There's a couple of ways that we could do it. I have a video on finishing the edges of zipper seams, so if you want to check that out, please do. But I could just sew this in and then bind it, but I'm going to put a double fold on it and then sew it to the zipper. I find what works easiest for me doing a double fold like this is to use this binding tape. This is seam stick that I get from Sailrite, but there's plenty of other manufacturers of this stuff that you can probably find. But I use this, put it on the good side. In this case it does not matter as long as it's the same side on both ends. So I'm going to put this on the good side of the fabric and then use that to secure a double fold. Once I have my double fold taped down, and you can use pins or staples or whatever method you want to use, then I just need to sew that fold down on top of the zipper. Then just going to repeat on the other side and make sure that your zipper teeth are oriented in the correct direction. Either up or down depending on how you're installing it and what kind of slider you have. If you don't know, by the way, putting zipper teeth facing inwards or an inverted zipper, which is kind of a trendy look lately, you have to have a different slider for that. You can't just flip over the zipper and use the same slider. But the zipper is all the same, it's just a different slider. Once you have the zippers sewn to each end, then it's time to reinstall your slider. And again, if you're using a zipper that was closed on one end and just sewed around it, and you don't need to bother with this. Now you have a couple of decisions to make here. If you are working with, say, billboard material or some other material that has a pattern that maybe varies from side to side, then you need to figure out how you want to orient where the zipper opening is so that the design that you want on the zipper side is there if you have a pattern that you're working with. You also may decide that you want to have the zipper in the middle of the pouch or at the very, very top or some distance below. I typically set them up so that they're, in the, upper fifth or sixth of the pouch, like that. But you can put it basically wherever you like. The other decision you need to make is if you have a preference for which way the zipper opens, this is the time you establish that. So I like my zipper to open from, if I'm looking at it, from left to right. So I typically hold a pouch with my left hand and open the zipper with my right hand. If you're left-handed or for whatever reason you like it the other way, then this is the time for you to decide that. You can also put two zipper sliders if you have them, and then it's irrelevant. You can just open it either way. Another thing you need to know now is how you intend to finish your seams. There's a couple of ways that you can finish the seams on a pouch like this. This inner tube bag has bound seams, so I did the binding with the bag inside out. And then turned it right side out. So you don't see the binding unless you're looking inside the bag. And I'll cut in a shot of the inside, but it's not that easy to see. And that just provides a good clean finish to that seam and prevents fraying in the future. On this billboard pouch, I did the same thing, but I put the binding on the outside. This is a very quick way to do it because once you're at this stage, you just sew the seams down and then put the binding on and you're done. You don't have to worry about turning the bag inside out. That might be a good approach with a very small bag or a bag that's made out of a very tough, difficult to turn material, or if you like the look of the binding and want to have that as part of the finished look. This is the pouch that I made with my wife in our sewing machine swap video, and in this one, the seams are finished in the same way we're going to do this one, which is by sewing the seam, then turning it inside out, sewing over it again to capture the raw edge, and then turning it back right side out. This is an effective way to get a clean finished seam without having to use binding, and I know a lot of people have difficulty binding on home machines. I'm one of them. I have to use my industrial machine if I even hope to get good results. So this is what we're going to do for this pouch. I've gone ahead and sewn this seam with the right side out, and this is cut really unevenly just because I was rushing to get this done, but even if it weren't, it might be a good idea when doing this kind of seam finish after you've sewn this seam to just trim the seam allowance evenly so that when you turn this inside out and sew it, you don't have areas where maybe you miss part because this is sticking out too much. What will happen is that where this is folded, there will be a bit of this raw edge still sticking out. So I'm just going to trim that down. Now to finish the seam, I'll just turn the pouch inside out. Now what I want to do is I want to sew down that seam allowance. I want to make sure that I'm capturing the raw edge. So just make sure you know how much seam allowance you have and make sure you're sewing farther than that into the pouch. So you'll end up with something like this. And then we can turn that back right side out. And there we have a finished pouch. So as you can see, it's a pretty simple pouch to make. One thing that I honestly, so as you can see, it's a pretty simple pouch to make. Honestly, I forgot something on this that I forget frequently if I'm not paying attention, but I like to add these little zipper tabs on the ends of the zippers, and you just put those on as you're sewing the side seams in, the initial side seam. And they help when you are opening the zippers and closing the zippers to have something to hang on to. You could also use these are a loop, I don't know if you can see that, but you could run a lanyard through these if you wanted to wear this over your shoulder or something. So again, the sky's kind of the limit with these things, so this is just a basic pouch that you can expand on as you like. Hey, I want to know what you think. Are you making pouches like this? And if you do make them, what do you use them for? Do you have a better pouch design that we should try? Comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. If you have questions, you can also ask questions down there. If you're not a subscriber, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram. If you really like what I'm doing, or you just like this shirt, you can buy it. There's a link to my Teespring store below. I hope you're all staying safe and staying well. Thanks for watching.